Okay, now that you've inputted data into your tracker, ideally more than one lesson of data, we get to the fun part, looking at what insights we've gained from this. So within the lesson itself, I'm currently in lesson 54. This is the only lesson that I've inputted real data into this template tracker for. Um, in this lesson, I can immediately see their daily percentages, so I don't have to leave this tab. I can take a quick glance at it and see how we're doing. The grades tab is going to give me the same information, but it'll be color coded and it puts it side by side with other lessons. So I can look at class averages of the same lesson in its different days, components. I can look um, across students specifically. How is Sophia doing, maybe with all of our VCE lessons compared to our other lessons? This is just counting how many words they got correct or the percentage of words they got correct, and then also, I guess, the percentage of, it would include capitalization and punctuation. So here immediately I can see there's three students who haven't reached that 80% accuracy mark. That's where I normally like to see students before I progress. But the class is really close to 90%, so I will be teaching day two after this. But I might keep monitoring Jackson, Mason, and Elijah, maybe provide them more support during the lesson the next day, or if this is similar to what their day two scores are, perhaps addressing this lesson in a small group setting as well. The last place that I see data, and this is really what makes me excited, is the data summation tab. The data summation tab tells me their percentage accuracy for all words that contain that concept. So some of these are going to be more precise than others. For example, all single syllable words, there's not going to be any words counted that aren't single syllables. Um, so that's kind of like a broader concept. Same thing here with closed syllables. Like it's a pretty accurate measure of how they're spelling closed syllables or open syllables. The challenge is when I get into some of these things that are more ambiguous. So again, syllable types would be the same thing. That'd be like short vowels, any of my individual sounds that are combined with other sounds to make a word. So for all of my short vowels, when I see 95.45% accuracy, that is telling me that 95.45% of the time, and I might get rid of some of those decimals to make it easier. But 95.45% of the time, students are spelling words that contain short vowels correctly. That doesn't tell me that 95.45% of the time they're spelling short vowels correctly. They could have spelled a different part of the word wrong, but any word that contained a short vowel is going to be included in this. Now, the challenging part here is that I might get some misleading data. For example, if I had the word came, in fact, I might have had the word came. Um, I see here that M has 82.81% accuracy. If a student spelled came with a K to make the k sound and spelled the M just fine, they knew that M says I'm still getting a lower value for that M says sound because the word that it was in was wrong. And so this is the thing to like take these words with caution. So the student could have perfect accuracy in knowing that B says B or A says ah. Um, but there might be another sound or another letter or I guess grapheme phoneme correspondence that is attached to that they're confused about. And so one thing I want to look at is the relative scores. If I'm looking at like straight 70s all the way down and I see a 50, then that's probably more concerning than if they're all 80. In fact, if they're all 80, I might be asking or trying to collect more data to figure out what actually are we struggling with here. Um, and that's the same thing here. The other thing to note about the data you collect is look at how many observations you have. So this is like this C says k. I have one observation per student, it appears. That class average might be a little bit more accurate because I have like six observations, or I think 11 in this set. But if I'm just looking at Sophia, I am not going to feel that confident that she doesn't know k yet. I only have one example. So kind of like if you give a student one word on a spelling test and they get it wrong, compared to if you give them 10 words on a spelling test and they get two right, I'd be more concerned about them getting 2 out of 10 right than I'd be getting 0 out of 1 right. So that's kind of the same situation here. You want to ask, how much data do I have? Do I have enough data to make a conclusion? Um, the one other thing to note is that I told you that they're all tied up. We can like try to tease that apart using either ChatGPT or like a statistical programming language, and hopefully that will come later. But for now, this is sufficient to write in your IEPs or your MTSS goals, depending on how much documentation you need. I know for IEPs you do need a lot of documentation. You would just want to specify that for words containing D, um, yeah, I guess there's not many digraphs that I can think of with D. Actually, none. D, for words containing D, the student has 100% accuracy. And that is a legitimate thing to say. It would not be legitimate to say the student spells D correctly 100% of the time. Well, that's a bad example. It would be in this case. Anyway, the point is we don't want to conflate those. We don't want to confuse them. We want to keep them separate. So when you're phrasing it, make sure you're phrasing it as words and not as this is the amount of times or the percentage that they're spelling these sounds right. With that said, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, my email address and contact is found at the link on this page.